Hello, welcome to the lifestyle segment of Women to Watch. I'm Cheri Morrison. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Victoria Wilson, Operations Director of Sharing Access. Welcome to the show, Victoria.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Victoria is local to the Philadelphia and the surrounding area. Victoria, please tell us a little bit about where you're from and your education.
Yeah, so I am originally from Westchester. So I've been in the Philly area my whole life. I went to Drexel University and there I studied entertainment and arts management.
Ah, and then after you studied arts and entertainment at Drexel, you headed to New York City?
Yeah, shortly after graduation, I got a job as a receptionist in New York City. I was there for not even a year until COVID hit, and then I kind of bounced on back here to Philly.
Okay. So this was COVID time when you came back to Philly.
Yes.
You came home to shelter. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what happened once you got home?
Yeah, so I came back to Philly because of COVID. New York was not the best place to be, and I was with my friend Evan at the time, and we were together when all of the food businesses in the area started to shut down and close their doors, and they weren't able to serve any food that they had prepped. And so they started calling Evan, who had started the organization Sharing Access, and him and I kind of hopped in a van and we went around from food business to food business, literally rescuing food for the next 48 hours and delivering all of that to local food banks.
Very cool. So that kind of started just before the holidays in 2018. Evan
Yeah.
was still attending Drexel, and you were up in New York, and he had a somewhat of a life changing day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that experience that led to Sharing Access?
Yeah, for sure. So when Evan was a student at Drexel, one semester was about to end, and he realized that he had 50 meal swipes left in his dining account that were going to go unused. They weren't going to roll over to the next term, so he figured he'd swipe all of them out. He put all of the meals in his car and went to Center City and gave it out to literally anybody who needed a meal. He likes to say that that was a day that changed his life forever. And he started to realize, if I have this much personal access in my life, how much personal access does everybody else around me have? And why aren't we doing anything about it?
Yeah. So he started after that, realizing the other kids had the same issue and unused meal
Yeah.
plans. He started a combined account. How was that
Yeah.
handled? Like, what happened with the food and the meal plans?
Yeah, that was kind of the day that the concept of sharing access was born. So he brought that as a formal business plan to Drexel University and said, "Hey, how can we get other students to donate meal swipes as well? I'm sure others have ones that aren't going used." And so they created this collective account where people and students could donate their meal swipes, and those meal swipes would be reallocated to students who may need a meal.
Oh, that's great. So it was going to other kids on campus who couldn't afford meal plans
Yeah,
necessarily.
exactly.
That's great. And then more started to take off with friends who worked at grocery stores and restaurants. You call it the Retail Rescue Program. Please
Yeah.
explain what happens with the food from this program.
Definitely. So word kind of got around about what Evan was doing, and local food businesses where he had friends who were cashiers started calling and saying, "Hey, we have banana boxes full of food, and it's either going to be thrown out, but I figured I'd give you a call, see if you can do anything with it." So he would again hop in his car and go and pick up this food, and literally would Google the nearest hunger relief organization or shelter and drop that food off there. And that became somewhat of a regular occurrence, and the closer he got with these food businesses, the more he realized how much waste or food surplus they really were experiencing. So decided to turn that into a formal retail rescue program and pick up from these food businesses on a regular basis.
Mhm. And then at this point, he needed help with pickups and deliveries and vehicles. So who did he contact for? Did he buy trucks or what happened?
Yeah, it kind of started with actually asking a local food bank to lend us a van for a little bit until we were able to get our own. But it was a network of students who were helping out at first, and also just individuals that were volunteering with their personal vehicles. So once we got enough to fundraise for our own vehicle, that was a big day. But we were able to send a van that would go around to 10 or 12 grocery stores in one day and pick up all of that food and deliver it to a network of hunger relief organizations throughout the city.
That's fantastic. I know I had a food manufacturing company for 24 years and mostly fresh soups that I would manufacture. And every once in a while, I mean, it was very close to me in operations and tracking everything. So I didn't have a lot of waste and things to get rid of. But every once in a while, a batch of something didn't sell like we expected it to, or somebody would cancel an order, and I would have some excess that I would like to get rid of. And I would call the food bank, but they weren't interested in the larger quantities. Like they wanted me to break it down into pints and quarts to distribute,
Hmm.
which was very labor intensive for me. Plus, I didn't have supplies of that size container. I was packaging in gallon and a half, like cryovac type bags. So
Hmm.
there was a real need for, not to mention if there were any leftover vegetables that, for some reason didn't get used up. So it would have been a great service to have back then. And I know a lot of manufacturers, especially out in that area, could still use some help with getting rid of some of their excess food, because not being in the city, it's just not accessible to a lot of food banks and distributors. So
Definitely. And an interesting thing is, food banks are really, really good at distributing food and knowing where the need is in their community. It's not always up to them to be the ones that are rescuing the food. So that's kind of where we come in. We're really filling that gap and trying to be as helpful as possible to these food businesses for taking all of their food, packaging it if we need to, and then redistributing that and actually giving it to the food bank so that they can really spend time on doing what they know best, which is distributing that food and getting it out to people who need it.
yeah, what a wonderful service you're providing. So you're 2 years into this now, 3 years?
Yeah,
3 years.
I'm 3 years into this now.
Yeah. So how often is someone going out and picking up and delivering food?
Every single day, we have a team of drivers who are in, box trucks, vans. We even have volunteers in personal vehicles, and we are picking up from all of the major grocers in the Philadelphia area, and then we also have some grocers down in Baltimore and in the DC area. So every day, in the morning, they go to these stores, they pick up the food, and then they deliver it to a network of hunger relief organizations.
Great. And you've been tracking the numbers since 2020. And because the
Yeah.
numbers are staggering, please listen as I read some of these off. First, approximately 40% of our food supply is tossed and considered waste. That's huge. To date, Sharing Excess has rescued 14,600,000 pounds of food from grocers, restaurants, wholesalers, and farmers, and delivered it to over 180 nonprofits and food banks. That's a retail value of about $27 million dollars and 54 million pounds of CO2 diverted from landfills. If this was done all around Philadelphia and the surrounding area, do you think there would still be a need of people going hungry?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's always going to be some level of hunger, you could say. Even in the morning, if I don't have anything for breakfast, I could be considered hungry at that uh, point. But there is definitely more than enough food to go around. The issue is access to food. So, taking that food that is surplus from point A and bringing it to point B where it's needed. Um, we're actually wasting more than double the amount of food that we would need to theoretically end food insecurity. So, what we're really trying to address at Sharing Access is that point of access. And how do we increase those access points all throughout the city and really give people an opportunity to get this food?
Yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of help from the colleges in the area. Is there someone you would like to reach out to who you think would be most impactful and helpful to the city of Philadelphia?
Yeah, honestly, like reaching any food businesses or any like financial supporters that are able to allow us to expand and grow throughout the area is always huge. But also, students are really big. So, we started on a college campus. We are still working with a lot of students. We have chapters at about 20 universities all throughout the United States. So, students are really, really passionate and driven and able to kind of mobilize themselves to do this work. So, yeah, always looking for passionate students.
Yeah, and corporate social responsibility is so huge now. It's such a buzzword, and
Yeah.
CSR is such an acronym that you see everywhere. It's great for kids to get a taste of this now. So, what's next? Is there anyone or any group our listeners can reach out to who may be helpful with your mission or growth, or where are you? Where are you headed?
We are headed wherever the wind may take us, and I say that because we really follow the food sources. So when any major food donor, or even just larger or smaller, has food that they want to donate, we're able to get there. So wherever that may bring us, this year we are looking to expand up in New York and throughout different states where there are large produce terminals and also just a lot of aggregated food businesses in one area. So um, that is kind of what 2023 is going to look like for us. A lot of expanding throughout the
Yeah,
United States.
I think you were headed to DC when we were chatting on the phone.
Yeah,
I hope
exactly.
I hope you were successful.
We were. We just started working with a few Trader Joe's stores down there. So
Oh,
just
fantastic.
getting the ball rolling. They are a fantastic company that donates hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds of food every year. So just, testing out the water of the operations down there, and everything went smoothly, very, very smoothly.
Great. Well, this is a very big and aggressive mission that you have. Best of luck and thank you for all you do and for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
Our pleasure. So, for more information about Victoria, sharing excess and making donations, food and monetary, organizing a pickup or delivery or volunteering, go to www.sharingexcess.com. Sue will be right back to close out the show. Ladies, keep living your dreams.